Hello, and welcome to Battle Report number 15. So, we've just finished the UK Masters Open, and the list review for that should have just gone up, or will have gone up in the last couple of days or something. And we're now looking forward towards the Scottish Championships, Scottish Championships number 5, which is very exciting. But the thing about this tournament coming up is it's not 4,500 points, it's going to be 5,000 points, which means the list structure is entirely different. I've got to find a little bit more core, I've got a little bit more character space, which, you know, I've not played at any points level other than 4,500 before. So it's going to take me a little bit of time to work out exactly what I want in my list and how I want to get that extra 500 points. Preferably I'd like something that I can then scale back down to 4,500. But the next couple of practice games are me experimenting with that, trying to work out what I want to take, what works and what doesn't, and how I can use the extra points most efficiently, basically. So for this first practice game, obviously I'll be taking my Kingdom of Equitaine again. I'm really enjoying them at the moment, and I'm going to be playing against Warriors of the Dark Gods. So if you watched the Battle Report number 13, I think, against Orcs and Goblins, this is the same opponent, so we're having a bit of a rematch here. See if we can have a little bit of a longer game. So, in my list, I have got a Duke, who is my general. He's on a Barded Warhorse with a shield and lance, a Bastard Sword, Crusader's Salvation for a 1-up rerollable save, the Virtue of Audacity, which gives him rerolls to hit against units with height large, and rerolls to hit and to wound against things with towering presence. And then he's got the Questing Oath and Bastard Sword, and my lance is enchanted with Divine Judgement. So on the charge he does multiple wounds, d3+1. So he's very, very geared out to kill big things. On the charge he gets 4 strength 6 attacks, and then they all get rerolls to hit and to wound against really big stuff, and they all do d3 wounds +1. So he's very specifically built for killing monsters and basically nothing else, really. I mean, he could hit a character, potentially blow them up. Next up, I've got a Duke on Hippogriff. He's got a Dusk Forged Shield for rerolling saves, Uther's Conviction for +1 Aegis against AP 6 or more, an Obsidian Rock for Magic Resistance 2, and the Virtue of Humility. So that's the one that looks after peasants, basically. He gets Insignificant and Commanding Presence and Rally Around the Flag, so he gets to use that on himself as well, which is pretty cool with Discipline 9. Next, I've got a Damsel on Barded Warhorse. She's a Wizard Master of Druidism. I've got a significantly cheaper Paladin BSB. He's got a shield on a Warhorse, he's got the Bastard Sword and Questing Oath and nothing else, so he's very naked, basically. Still with a 2-up save and his Blessing, though. A second Damsel, who's also on a Barded Warhorse. She is a Wizard Adept of Shamanism. In core, I've got a unit of 13 Knights of the Realm with full command and Banner of the Last Charge. Then 2 units of 6 Knights of the Realm, one with full command and the other with a Standard Bearer and a Musician. A unit of Knights of the Grail, so 8 of them with full command and Stalker Standard, and then 8 Knights of the Quest with full command and Stalker Standard. I've brought along the Green Knight, and then 2 units of Yeoman Outriders with shields and bows. So basically with my extra points there, I've brought along the Green Knight, and put a little bit more points into characters. Then my opponent, he's using his... I don't think this list is on the channel yet. He's using his Sloth Lords list. So he's got a Chosen Lord as his general on a War Dice with a Trophy Rack with the Banner of the Relentless Company. He's got a shield, Hellforged Armour, enchanted with Basalt Infusion. Great Weapon, Ledger of Souls. That's the magic item that generates Veil tokens for when a friendly model within 9 dies. Talisman of Shielding for a 5-up Aegis. He's got the Mark of Sloth, which gives him +1 resilience as long as he doesn't move too far, basically. If he does a move, an advance, or a charge above 10 inches, or further than 10 inches, then he loses that resilience. Then Luck of the Dark Gods, which gives him +1 to his Aegis. He's got a Sorcerer, who's got the Veil Walker, which you burn Veil tokens to get slightly better spells. I think you get to inflict, rerolling successful saves, reroll to wound, or +6 to the range of the spells, I think. He's also on a War Dice. He's a Wizard Master of Occultism. He's got Plate Armor with Gladiator Spirit, which gives him parry and extra armor. Paired weapons with the hero's heart and magical heirloom to give him the hereditary spell as well. Then we've got a second chosen lord, also on a war dais, with a trophy rack, a shield, hell-forged armor with death cheat to give him 4+ fortitude, a great weapon, rod of battle, Veilgate orb, and the mark of sloth. That means the army can keep more veil tokens in between turns, so as things are dying and the other lord is collecting up veil tokens, he enables the army to hold on to more of them. Then in his core, he's got 20 warriors with Banner of Speed and a musician. 2 big buses of barbarians, one's 35, one's 34. They've got great weapons, the banners of the Relentless Company and full command. Then 5 chosen knights, again with the mark of sloth, full command, and the Wasteland Torch, so it gives them Strider Ruins, flaming attacks in the first round of combat, and they can change a forest or field on the battlefield into a ruin. 3 naked chimeras, and 2 lots of 5 warhounds. So, a very big, beefy Death Star at the centre of this army, supported by the Chosen Knights and the Barbarians, and then chaff in the Chimeras and the 5 Warhounds. And surprisingly tough magic as well, with all those Barbarians constantly dropping like flies. The characters then generate and hold on to those Veil tokens, and then the Sorcerer puts out very offensive magic with his Occultism and his Hereditary spell. Which can be really, really brutal if you're chopping through the Barbarians quickly enough. And then, of course, once you've got through all that, you've got 3 beefy characters and 20 warriors to fight. So, pretty solid list, though I don't imagine he'll mind me saying it's a little bit one-dimensional. But it's a nice fun list to play, and it's a difficult one to play against. So, for spells, his Occultism Master took the Hereditary, obviously. Someone's got the Rod of Battle, and from Occultism, he's got the Rot Within, Breath of Corruption, Marked for Doom, and Grave Calls. So, a combat debuff, the permanent one in Rot Within, Breath of Corruption, which is toxic attacks on a breath weapon, which is really very hideous against Equitaine, obviously. Marked for Doom for a snipe, and Grave Calls for a good old magic missile. Then my Druid Master has taken Master of Earth. There's a nice big Impassable in the centre, so might as well. Entwining Roots, Summer's Growth, and Stone Skin. And then my Shamanism Adept has taken Awaken the Beast and Swarm of Insects. And for this game, we were playing Counter Thrust, and the secondary objective was Spoils of War, which is those 3 tokens in the centre. So I think, actually, we played the where those markers should have been 6 inches further apart from one another, but it doesn't make an awful lot of difference. So I deployed quite lightly on the right-hand flank. I can't remember who deployed first, but basically, if I'm going to fight this army, I need to fight it in dribs and drabs, and I need to fight it on my terms. I can't let that Death Star get into anything, because I just don't have the capacity to get through all of those characters, and then all the warriors behind them as well, because I'll be steadfast for a very long time as well, and Resilience 4 with the 3-up save and parry. It's just brutal, I don't want to touch that, but everything else I should be able to deal with pretty comfortably. And if I can, I'm the quicker army, so I should be able to get hold of Spoils of War. So I was deployed with my Banner of the Last Charge Realms on the left, then my Grail Knights with the Druidess. My General and BSB are in with the 8 Questing Knights, then some Yeomen in front of them. The 2 units of Knights of the Realm on the right-hand flank with the Humble Duke, and the other unit of Yeomen. And then on the other flank, he's got his 2 Chimeras, the Sloth Chosen Knight, another Chimera, 1 block of Barbarians, 1 unit of Warhounds, his Death Star, and then the other unit of Barbarians, and finally on the other flank, he's got his Warhounds. So, post-Vanguard, I move up pretty cautiously with the units on the left. I don't want to give, because of course the Chimeras are very fast with, they're just as fast as me with Advance 8 and Swift Stride. So I don't want to give them any long charges and give them a bounce into any of my units. And I need to keep them alive for later, so I try and hide them from his magic. The other unit, on the other hand, though, I can basically hem in those Warhounds. I'm going to force them to charge me, because they can't move past. They'll just... without light troops, they're very one-dimensional. So I can trap and kill them for a little bit of easy points, and so I don't need to worry about them later in the game. I have vanguarded a little bit too close with them, but we do fix that not too far into the game. And then we go to Warriors of the Dark Gods, turn 1. So he declares a couple of charges. He's a little bit closer than I thought he was with the Chimera behind the Impassable there, so he declares a charge there, which I'm happy to flee from. I've got plenty of movement to stick behind that Questing Knight unit. Of course, I'm not going to panic them. And the dogs on the other side charge my yeoman. I stand and shoot and kill one of them on the way in, which is nice. And we go to post-movement. So the Chimera there fails forward a little bit and bounces off the impassable terrain. The Death Star and the 2 Barbarian units kind of shuffle about a bit. Not a whole lot of movement. He's marched forward. He's going to make his way towards the spoil in the centre and try not to give his flank up to my units on the right. I can still break steadfast if I hit them with a full unit there, so he needs to be careful of that. And then the Chimera on the left, with their March 20, had literally like millimetres to spare, just got outside of my my line of sight of the Banner of the Last Charge unit. So I thought I'd protected myself pretty well against that, but he had just enough space to squeeze in there. So he squeezes the Chimera in there, and we go to Magic. Oh, maybe he hadn't finished moving. So I think that's where the... I took my screenshot a little bit too early, so the Death Star shuffles around a little bit more to face my Realm Knights over there. In Magic, he casts Marked for Doom, I think, on the Hippogriff, which I had to spell. They get Breath of Corruption on the Sorcerer, and at long range he kills Barbarian for it to boost it, so it's got an 18-inch range and kills one of the Realm Knights on the hill. Post-combat, also, I think that's... Yeah, we've just got the Yeoman and the Hounds on the right-hand side. He kills 2 of me, and I kill 2 of him. He wins by 1, but I'm Discipline 8 with the Hippogriff over there, and he gives them Rally Round Flag as well, so I stick there, no problem. And we go to my turn 1. So after reforms, he shuffles over a bit, and then I copy him as well to give myself some space to charge the Realm Knights in there. But no other charges besides that, so we go to post-movement. I rally my Yeoman behind the Questing Knights, and then squeeze them all the way through to in front of my Banner of the Last Charge unit. I'm not sure I really needed to do that. If the Chimera charges my front, then it just bounces. I've got 3 ranks and a banner, so I don't know why I was so concerned about that. I mean, they'd hold up my unit a bit if they charge in the flank, potentially, but yeah, I was being overly cautious there. The Hippogriff flies down off of his hill and gets out of line of sight of all those units there. He's just going to cause problems, really. I don't think he's particularly loaded out for taking out any of the units here. But he's certainly in the right sort of place to just be irritating, basically. If he can go in with a unit, then he should be pretty good. The 5 Realm Knights move down off of the hill as well, and I push forward a little bit with the Questing Knights and my characters. Where the Chimera is by the impassable terrain, he can't wheel round that and then hit me. So I'm chaffed there, or he's chaffed there with the impassable. So I'm safe to push forward a little bit and start being a little bit more aggressive on this side, see if I could push forward and take the objective. In Magic, I cast Thrones. Swarm of Insects is dispelled, but I cast Master of Earth and Entwining Roots on the Chimera in front of me. I do a couple of wounds to him with that, and he's now at -2 offensive and defensive skill, so extra reason for him to not touch my Yeoman now then. And post-combat as well on the right there, obviously the Realm Knights and the Yeoman squash the dogs. So I overrun with the Realm Knights just to get out of line of sight of everything, and I reform with the Yeoman. So Warriors turn 2. I ignore the units, well, his Death Star ignores my units on the right and starts moving towards the spoils token in the centre. From where he was pointing at me last turn, he didn't have quite enough movement to shift onto the objective there, so he's going to have to spend another turn sitting there, getting himself in the right position to pick that token up. The Barbarians move around just enough so that they're looking at my Hippogriff. And the Warhounds in the centre, just sort of... I don't think he was really sure what to do with them. I think, really, Warhounds are a bit pants. Without light troops, and they have no offensive capability, no defensive capability. They're poor chaff, really. You know, I pay 50 points more for my yeoman, and I just get so many more tricks out of them. They just push up a little bit to get in the way of my Realm Knights, but where they're sitting there, they're also chaffing his unit as well, so, you know, I think they're just an awkward unit. The Wounded Chimera in front of all my units there, dance around them. He passes march check and moves around in front of the ruins, out of the way of my Grail Knights. And the Barbarians and the other two Chimeras just kind of shuffle about a little bit. We go to Magic. He casts Grave Calls on the Questing Knights, which I dispel. Then he casts Breath of Corruption, which is the one that I really should have been worrying about. Rot Within fails, and then in the shooting phase, he takes off 6 of my 8 knights, which was hideous. He's easily within range, and then he just rolls a 2d6, and then it's forced to basically kill them. I only get a 6 up Aegis against it, so it was just horrible. It really destroyed that unit, and it's going to take me an awful lot of effort to grow them back to anything that's going to be nearly combat ready. And we go to Equitaine turn 2. So, my units don't see anything that they can charge. I'm still worried about that Chimera there, which I don't think I really needed to be, did I? I've got the static combat raz to take him, especially now that he's wounded. My Realm Knights don't see the point in charging those Warhounds, and if I kill them this turn, then I don't have any chaff for blocking his Death Star next turn, so I just move up and get in the way of them. They can't move out of the way now. They can reform, but of course they can't swift reform and move out of the way, so they're very much stuck there. My Yeomen move up behind the hill, so they can't be seen by anything, so I can use them later on in the game for chaff. The Realm Knights on the right reform to face back towards the centre and the objective. My Hippogriff finds a spot where nothing can see him and gets up in the middle of everything, up into everything's business. And the units on the left just sort of shuffle about very non-committally, not pushing forward at all. Just kind of wasting time on that flank, really. In Magic, I cast Throne and Master of Earth again, which kills the Chimera. I get Entwining Roots on the Death Star, and I try for Summer's Growth, which is dispelled, but by this point I've managed to grow back 2 Questing Knights, thankfully anyway, with Master of Earth and Entwining Roots. So at the very least I've got 2 ranks of Knights left on that unit. So we go to Warriors turn 3. I can't remember which of the Lords it is, whether it's the General or the Spare Lord, but one of them declares a charge against the Questing Knights. He needs a 10 or something, so he's a little bit close, but thankfully he does fail, and doesn't roll high enough to get out of the unit either, so that unit's now stuck there for another turn, because the rest of the unit now can't move anywhere because it counts as shaken. In Magic, I again, for some reason, dispel Grave Calls instead of Breath of Corruption, which then goes on to wipe out the Questing Knights. Thankfully it doesn't do any wounds to the characters at all, and he charges his Warhounds into my Realm Knights. Post-combat, he does actually manage to kill one of my Realm Knights there, but I easily beat him, and he flees off through into the centre of the pitch there, into the centre of the board, and now I've got my General and my BSB sitting on their lonesome in front of the Death Star, which probably isn't particularly good news. We go on to Equitaine turn 3, which isn't particularly eventful. I don't get an awful lot of magic off, and I with that Chimera dead, I can now move up a little bit more, but I am minus 1 of my combat units now. I move the Realm Knights on the right up behind those Barbarians sitting on the objective on the right. I've got not enough to count as disrupting them, so they're still going to be steadfast, but they won't be getting an awful lot of attacks against me, and I need to be doing something for that objective. As for my General and BSB, though, I move my General as a cowboy up in front of my last charge unit, and I protect my BSB by just sticking him in the Banner of the Last Charge unit. I'm going to be taking off the impact hits from that unit, but it's much better than having him shot off with Breath of Corruption again. And then my Hippogriff, again, you know, there's nothing small enough for him to be fighting, so he's trying to see if he can catch out one of the Chimeras now. And we go to Warriors turn 4. So the Lone Warhound continues fleeing. The Chimeras reshuffle over towards the right. The Barbarian unit on the rightmost Spoils of War token has now picked that up, and is facing my larger unit of Realm Knights. And the Death Star finally moves in such a way that it can now pick up the token for next turn. And the second Barbarian unit has also turned away from my main combat unit. So I'm now very much chasing down the Warriors' army. Not because they're scared of me, but because they've done enough damage to win the game, basically. I now need to catch them and also catch the objective to score enough to push this to a 10-10 at least. Which is going to be difficult at this point. He also faces his Chosen Knights as best as he can towards my Hippogriff, but with the Warhound in the way, that makes it a little bit awkward for him. So we do some magic for the Warriors. So he casts Breath of Corruption again, or possibly, I think it might have been Grave Calls actually, against the Realm Knights on the right, and kills 2 of them, reducing them to just the Champion and Standard Bearer. Not an awful lot else happens, and then we go to Equitaine turn 4. So, I finally get some charges in. The 2 lone Realm Knights and that unit of Realm Knights on the right go into the into the Barbarian block, see if they can chop them down. They're out of General's range at the moment, so they're going to be Discipline... I think they're only Discipline 7. Yeah, they're only Discipline 7, so they're going to be Steadfast, but they're not going to be able to combat reform with so many with more than one unit engaged with them on more than one facing. But it's still about a 50-50 that I'm actually able to break them, and if I do, then they have to drop that objective then, which is potentially really good for me. I charge my Hippogriff into the flank of the Chosen Knights there. I had to charge the Warhound out of the way first, so it's now heading in such a direction that it's going to take a little bit longer to come off the board. But it's insignificant, so it's not causing any panic for the Warriors. But I've put my Hippogriff in there just because, with his toughness, I should just spend long enough. It's gonna take him too long to kill me before a unit arrives and kills those knights. They're not going to beat me in combat because they don't have a full rank. They're going to be they're going to have a banner, but I'm Discipline 9 and I have a reroll from the Humility virtue, so that's fine for me. That's a combat that I'm going to win eventually, rather than now, potentially. And then with my moves, I'm free to then finally march up with my combat units. I drop my Green Knight at last. He's going to be good for causing terror checks on independent units later in the game. I use my Yoma to chaff up the Chimera from charging into the flank of anything. He's essentially trapped in there with the fleeing Warhound in there. I use my Audacity Duke. I move him up to a point where he's going to be able to flank charge the Chosen Knights next turn, and he's doing multiple wounds D3 against enemies on the charge, which is going to be really good. Post magic, I put Entwining Roots on the Chosen Knights. I get Stone Skin. Do I get Stone Skin? I try Stone Skin on the Realm Knights on the right. I can't remember if I actually get that off. No, it doesn't look like I do. So I try that, but it's dispelled. But I get... I think that's supposed to be Swarm of Insects, not Awaken the Beast on the Barbarians there. I only kill a few of them. That puts Scarification on the Damsel there. Post-combat, though, I don't do an awful lot to the Barbarians over there. I force the Panic check, or the Break check, which they fortunately pass, or unfortunately for me. But the combat with the Hippogriff, I charge, I have a flank, we don't do any wounds to each other, and he's got a banner, so I win by 1. He fails his break check, and then I run him down, which neither of us were expecting at all. My Hippogriff basically isn't a combat unit, not against something that should be as heavyweight as the Chosen Knights. So that was a big surprise for me. A nice surprise, like I was going to kill those Chosen Knights anyway with all those units coming, lining up behind them for this turn, but... I wasn't expecting to kill them so soon, basically, but it gives that Chimera now a move out, free to chaff me later on in the game instead. And we go to Warriors turn 5. So, as I say, the Warhound keeps fleeing, so I guess the Chimera wasn't trapped anyway, because you'd move fleeing units before remaining moves. So the Chimera gets out of dodge on that flank. The one in the forest moves up away from all my units as far as it can, and the Death Star and Barbarians are closing in on the Realm Knights fighting for the objective on their far flank. Most of the magic missiles can't see anything. I dispel the rot within, and Rod of Battle is cast on the Barbarians in combat with my realms. Post-combat, he kills a couple more Grail Knights, Realm Knights even, and I keep chopping them down. Not to the point where they're broken steadfast, of course, so they're still sticking there, and they're now within General's leadership, so they're all good. And then we go to Equitaine turn 5. So everything keeps moving on after his combat units. I move my Green Knight very aggressively, see if I can get behind his combat blocks to a point where it's just going to make it awkward for him to turn around. And I don't want his Death Star getting into combat there. If I can keep that champion alive, then that's really good for that combat with the objective there. So I use my Yeoman there to protect them. The Yeoman on the right continue to get in the way of the Chimera, and my Audacity Lord is moved to a point where I've got leadership on my other 2 units, and a potential charge into hopefully wherever that Chimera can get to. Post Magic, mostly nothing gets off. I get a couple of wounds on that Chimera there from Swarm of Insects, but nothing else. I mostly don't manage anything. In shooting, I do manage a wound on the Chimera on the left with the bows, which is nice. Post-combat, I chop up a load of more barbarians, and then with Rod of Battle in there, he manages to do enough wounds to me to wipe out those 2 units, or break me, I can't remember. But he's won that now, and he's now holding on to the objective with that unit, and I've now got no scoring over there. We go to turn 6 for the Warriors. He charges in with the Death Star into those Yeomen who is now sitting in the way where they can get to very easily. The Chimera has got plenty of movement to move around. He passes March check and then has plenty of movement to just get out of line of sight of all of my units over there, so my generals now spent the game doing nothing. The other Chimera next to the impassable terrain moves up and chaffs both of my combat units there, which is a massive pain in the arse. I probably could have done with being a little bit further apart from one another to stop him from doing that. And you'll notice that he's got Breath of Corruption on there, and as he's a single model he can do that. And of course, you sacrifice a Barbarian, it's now got a range of 18, and he kills the Green Knight. I think he rolled 9 on his breath weapon and then does 6 wounds to me, which I failed to save enough of them to keep him alive. My turn 6, he of course kills the Yeoman and then turns around to face me. I put the Banner of the Last Charge unit into the Chimera, and if I can force a break test, even a steadfast break test at Discipline 9 with rerolls, the Hippogriff might force that unit to flee, which would put a panic on the other unit, so I try that. Post-combat though, I kill enough of them, I kill the Chimera, I move the Druidism out of that unit to try and Master of Earth off that other Chimera, which I don't manage, and we go to the final scores, which was a 7-13, so we drew on kill points, and then he won the objective. So I just spent far too much time at the beginning of the game worrying about what that Chimera might do to me. If I thought about it for a moment, I mean, we did talk about it throughout the game, so it's not as if I wasn't thinking about it. I just I gave it too much credit. I think I was too worried about what it might do to the unit, and I just, there was no reason for me to worry about it. I just needed to move forward, cast a couple of combat buffs on me, and then there was no chance he was going to go into me, and I could have just kept pressing. And that really cost me the game. It meant that I was too slow on the left flank and gave it, because he stalled so long with his Death Star in the centre, just trying to charge things, trying to keep an eye on my units on the right. And that would have given me plenty of time to move up, deal with the Chimeras and the Chosen Knights on the left flank, and then go round the Impassable and start taking on his combat units. And would have given me the upper hand in the objective potentially as well. But I just spent too much time dilly-dallying around. But it was nice to play with a 5,000 point list. Good to start having a look at what I might like for my core, what I might want to change for the next game. So lessons learned, I need to beef up that. The Hippogriff, I think even with killing the Chosen Knights, he needs to be more substantial so I can actually put him into this stuff, because he spent the game doing nothing. The Duke, also my general, was a bit meh. He was too tunnel visioned in on killing monsters than going into actual units. And I've also learnt Dispel Breath of Corruption when I'm playing at Equitaine. So, thank you very much for watching, and I will catch you in the next one. No, I'm recording. I can't have you in here shouting at me. Come on. Come on. No. You're going to yell. No. Out you go. Back when I'm not. Scoosh.